Hi there! Here we go again, making another video about Vox Machina in Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remaster. I was initially going to do a caster here, maybe Keyleth or Scanlan. I guess really only Keyleth or Scanlan, I suppose Pike too, as we've done a couple more martial characters already. However, the Guns and Gears Remaster for Pathfinder 2nd Edition just came out, so it feels like a fitting time to do a gunslinger. Dare I say the gunslinger when it comes to D&D anyway. Percival Frederickstein von Musil-Klosolski de Rolo III, or Percy, as we will call him from here on out, I hope for obvious reasons. Now, this is perhaps the character most indicative of Vox Machina's roots, as from what I can see, gunslingers, being at least steampunk if not more, class that really didn't suit the fantasy genre that D&D was going for up until 5th edition and everything before we got to artificers and all of that. So it was really in Pathfinder that this class seemed to get its start. In Paizo's 2011 Ultimate Combat for Pathfinder 1st edition, it featured alternate classes you could take like their gunslinger, and it was likely with these rules that Percy was initially created. Taliesin, who created Percy, played a different character in the first couple of pre-stream games, a Dragonborn Paladin, before making Percy, who the rest of Vox Machina meet in roughly session 4 of their pre-stream games, after the transition from 4th edition to Pathfinder as well, which makes sense for this character. So yeah, more than any other character in the party, this is kind of like a homecoming for Percy in particular. Let's talk about him. Serious spoilers, especially for the Vox Machina show here, so you've been warned. Percy, or Percival Frederickstein von Musil-Klosolski de Rolo III, is a noble from the city of Whitestone, where his family once ruled. However, when he was young, they were all killed in a coup by the Brywoods and a few others, with Percy being one of the only survivors to make it out alive. After years of wandering, his hair turning white from trauma, he eventually had a vision, a dream, which gave him the knowledge to build the first gun in Exandria, which I discovered is called the List. In researching this, a name I expect was given to it later, but makes a lot of sense in context. So yeah, Percy is the father of firearms in this world, and by extension guns in Exandria only came to be, at least in this way, thanks to the influence of a demon, which, yeah, that tracks, damn. Moving on, Percival would eventually be found in a cell by Vox Machina and join them after giving Vex all his money, and the rest is history, as they say. He is played by Taliesin Jaffe, full name Taliesin Axelrod Armstrong Jaffe, which is almost as wild as Percy's name, and is a, you guessed it, voice actor, as well as an actor and director and writer, because, you know, all these people are very talented. You may know him as Tancred, a character who also uses guns in Final Fantasy IV. Pre-Heavensward anyway. I think that's meant to be 14 and I've written it wrong. Basil Hawkins in the One Piece dub, Darian Morgraine in World of Warcraft, and often Blanca from Street Fighter. He's also the voice of the Flash in Injustice 2, and actually in Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire as Percy. He also was a child actor, appearing in St. Elsewhere as Jimmy Hassett, in 2010 the year we made contact as Christopher Floyd, and in Mr. Mum as Kenny Butler. Okay, so back to TTRPGs, starting with 5th edition stuff. Percy is a human. Simple. Humans get a +1 to all ability scores and know the common language and one additional one. That's it. Variant humans and others were added later. Variants may have been at the start, but for now, we're keeping it as simple as possible. You're going to be medium, speed is going to be 30 feet. You guys know how all this works, right? You're humans too. You can move at 30 feet per 6 seconds. Yeah. Anyway, let's look at the difference from the Pathfinder ancestry for human. We did cover most of this before with Vax. 8 hit points, size medium, 25 feet speed, the standard for the system. Ability boosts and flaws, you just get 2 free boosts. And you get common and additional languages equal to 1, plus your intelligence modifier if it's positive. You choose from languages that make sense for the location in which you live, and so on and so forth. The same as Vax pretty much here. But humans can be pretty much anything you need them to, and you can put your boost anywhere. For heritage, we have chosen Versatile Human, which grants us an extra feat, of course if we meet the prerequisites, which again we did do for Vax, but it's just very useful. So let's compare what we have so far. In 5e, you get +1 to all your stats. In Pathfinder, you get +2, essentially, to 2 of them, but there's no rolling required. 30 feet of movement versus 25, both the standard speeds for the systems. There you also have Versatile Human to give us an extra feat in Pathfinder, and you get hit points, which is not how 5e works, of course. And Common and Elvish are the languages that we get here for Percy, and then Common, Elvish, Empyrean, which is the equivalent of Celestial in Pathfinder, and Gnomish, because again, if you get another language, which we're going to get because of the later intelligence modifier we come to, Gnomish is one that makes sense to take. Yeah, so humans aren't super interesting, there's nothing new, and that's okay. They are very easy to build upon, and let's have a look at background for that building element. Percy has a noble background in 5e, and hey, that exists in Pathfinder too. Snap! So let's have a look at those. First the 5e one. Nobles get proficiency with history and persuasion, one type of gaming set, though I had a look and I couldn't see this anywhere, and a language of your choice. And this is where Percy chooses Celestial. For equipment, they get fine clothes, a signet ring, a scroll of pedigree, and a purse containing some gold, though Vex technically has that now. They do get position of privilege as a feature as well, but as we have seen with the others, I don't think they use these features. But at the same time, Percy just kind of innately just do this anyway, because he is from high society, and that's the way that Taliesin plays him. Now for Pathfinder, Noble gives you this, in addition to attribute boosts, which we will cover later. You're trained in society, and your choice of the genealogy law or heraldry law. We chose genealogy. You also gain the Courtly Graces skill feat. This is a bit of a long one to read, so bear with me, but essentially you were raised among the nobility or have learned proper etiquette and bearing, allowing you to present yourself in a noble and play games of influence and politics. Unless you are intentionally presenting yourself differently, anyone who speaks to you will assume you are a noble or closely associated with the nobility, such as a prominent servant. You can use society to make an impression on a noble, as well as impersonate to pretend to be the type of noble or specific individual noble. If you use the normal skills in these situations, you receive a +1 circumstance bonus to the check instead. So, that makes sense for Percy, so getting a little boost to that doesn't hurt. Okay, so let's compare the two again. We have been trained in history and persuasion in 5e, whereas we get society and genealogy law from Pathfinder. Position of privilege and Courtly Graces pretty much go hand in hand, even if position of privilege isn't really used. And then we get Celestial as a language and maybe a gaming set for Percy. Percy does joke that he knows D&D at one point, so I guess you could make an argument that that's what it is, that he's proficient in. And then we also get our modifiers, which are going to be +2 to intelligence or charisma, and then something to something else for Pathfinder. Pretty even, as we have come to see from the backgrounds, and these two nobles certainly have similarities. So now we can divert from our usual path a bit. Percy in 5e at first level is technically just a fighter. That is until level 3, at which point he chooses his martial archetype as a gunslinger. So, fighter for now? It means this part of the comparison is really going to be a bit off, as we are comparing a fighter to a gunslinger. But hey, that's just the way it's going to be for now, so let's have a look. Fighters get 1d10 hit points per fighter level, and at first level that is 10 plus your con modifier. At higher levels it is 1d10 or 6 plus your con modifier per fighter level after first. They get proficiency in all armor and shields, simple weapons and martial weapons, no tools, and are proficient in the strength and constitution saving throws, which are some pretty useful ones. Skills, they get to choose 2 from acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival. And they then get to choose a fighting style. Percy chooses archery, which gives you a +2 bonus to attack rolls you make with ranged weapons. So it's called archery, but this includes guns too. You also get second wind. You have a limited well of stamina that you can draw upon to protect yourself from harm. On your turn, you can use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. That's it. Fighters are rather simple in 5e, especially prior to getting their subclasses. But +2 to ranged attacks is great for Percy, and obviously, second wind is very useful in a pinch, especially at low levels when it can restore quite a lot of your hit points. Okay, so Percy's starting scores are a little more mysterious to us. The others had taken feats for all of their ASIs. Percy only seems to have taken 1 at this point from what I can see on the character sheet, and he also gets an extra ASI as a fighter at 6th level. So what did he add? Well, if they have involved stats, dexterity couldn't have reached level 20 at level 1 for a human with their +1s to everything, that is. So we're going to say dex started at 18, and then they could be anything really, but I'm going to go with wisdom being at 14. They really could be anything apart from charisma and intelligence, I think, as I think Taliesin would probably put those quite high for Percy. So that would mean 12 +1 strength, 18 +4 dex, 14 +2 con, 16 +3 intelligence, and 14 +2 wisdom, and 14 +2 charisma. This would make his AC 15 with leather or 16 with studded, and his hit points would start at 12. Okay, so now let's have a look at Pathfinder. This is the gunslinger class though, not the fighter. It is also post remaster, so there are going to be a few more changes that have been made. Your key ability is dexterity, and your hit points are 8 plus your con modifier. You are an expert in perception, so slightly higher than just trained. And for your saving throws, you have expert in fortitude and reflex, and trained in will. Your skills, you're trained in 1 or more skills determined by a gunslinger's way, which we will get to, and the number of additional skills equal to 3 plus your intelligence modifier. You are expert in simple firearms and crossbows, and expert in martial firearms and crossbows, and trained in advanced firearms and crossbows. And then you're trained in simple martial and unarmed attacks. So yeah, this is the big thing about the gunslinger. At level 1, they have that expert proficiency, which essentially gives them an extra +2 compared to almost everyone else with firearms. So more likely to crit and all that stuff at first level. Defenses, they are trained in light and medium armor and an armored defense. And they also get something called Slinger's Precision. This name has been slightly changed in the update. You do an extra +2 precision damage with strikes made using non-repeating crossbows, and an extra 1d4 precision damage on strikes using non-repeating firearms. Before, this was a +1 circumstance bonus, so this is now roughly more damage, and means you can add circumstance bonus damage from other sources as well. It is worth noting this is now precision damage, which means if some enemies are immune to precision, this won't do anything. But it makes sense. If you have Gunslinger Legend, you instead do +3 precision damage or an extra 1d6 for using non-repeating firearms. Repeating firearms used to get the +1 bonus, they don't get anything now, but they do shoot a lot more and you don't have to reload them as far often, so it does make sense. If you're using combination weapons as well, whose ranged form is a firearm or crossbow, you use your proficiency with firearms and crossbows for the attacks made with those melee configurations, which is very cool, though not particularly useful for Percy. But if you're trying to make a Bloodborne-esque character or a Ruby-esque one, then that's pretty neat. Other classes can use guns, essentially, but none can use them quite as effectively as you can. You also choose your Gunslinger's Way, which is like our subclass, and we are going to choose the Sniper, which I think makes a lot of sense for Percy with bad news. He definitely could fit into some of the other archetypes, but we're going to go all the other ways, we're going to go with Sniper. You get trained in stealth, that's your extra skill, and covered reload. You duck into a safe position or minimize your profile while reloading to make your next attack. Either take cover or attempt to hide, then interact to reload. As normal, you must meet the requirements from take cover or hide. You must be prone, benefiting from cover, or near a feature that allows you to take cover. The Gunslinger classes all get an action that allow them to blend reloading with another action, so it doesn't constantly bog down your action cycle, which is great and feels really cool to be able to do. Again, you're just better and more used to doing this than most other people. You also get one shot, one kill, which is triggered when you roll initiative if you use stealth. Your first shot is the deadliest. Interact to draw a firearm or crossbow. Your first successful strike with that weapon during this encounter deals an additional 1d6 precision damage. This damage increases to 2d6 at 9th level and 3d6 at 15th level. Great! Lots more damage, and if rolled with stealth, then the enemy is likely off guard to you, so you're more likely to get a crit, and firearms do crazy damage on crits, which we'll get to in a little bit. Plus, even more here if the first shot that lands. It used to only be the specific first shot, so if you missed it would suck, but now it's just when you first hit, so this is a definite improvement. Again, all these options really make the Gunslinger feel like they are the best of guns, which I know sounds obvious, but it's cool that the mechanics reflect that. Okay, so that's most of the Gunslinger we need to do. We just need to choose our class feats now. Usually we get one, but again, we've chosen Natural Ambition as our ancestry feat, so we get to choose 2. We've taken Munitions Crafter and Cover Fire. Munitions Crafter is kind of obvious and another long one. Bullets and bombs can be scarce in some parts, so you've learned to make your own. You become trained in crafting and gain the Advanced Alchemy benefits. You can use Advanced Alchemy benefits to create a number of daily consumables equal to 4 plus your level rounded up, so 5. These consumables must be bombs or alchemical ammunition. Gain a formula book that includes the formula for black powder and 4 first level types of common or uncommon alchemical ammunition or bombs of your choice. When crafting alchemical ammunition, including black powder in doses or rounds, using advanced alchemy, you create the ammunition in batches of 4, meaning if you're 4th level and you used all your advanced alchemy consumables to create alchemical ammunition, you could create a maximum of 24 rounds. You cannot use this to craft horns or kegs of black powder. That would be a bit wild. Now, we will deal with more of crafting another time, but safe to say, we know Percy has to create his own munitions as the father of firearms, and indeed the 5e Gunslinger subclass they create has a similar ability, so having this makes perfect sense. This feat has also changed as the Alchemist changed, so that makes sense too. You're more limited in what you can craft now though, and you can only craft less ammo, but overall it should still be enough ammo to deal with a combat a day or two. Cover Fire is one action and can be used once per round, as long as you have a loaded firearm. You lay down suppressive fire to protect allies by forcing foes to cover from your wild attacks. Make a firearm or crossbow strike. The target must decide before you roll your attack whether it will duck out the way, and then you strike. If the target ducks, it gains a +2 circumstance bonus to AC against your attack, or a +4 bonus to AC if it has cover. It also gets a -2 circumstance penalty to any ranged attacks it makes until the end of its next turn. If the target chooses not to duck, you gain a +1 bonus to your attack roll for that strike. This also just feels right for Percy, both with how we see him sometimes in the campaign, but also with how we see him with bad news in the show. So there we are, now for ability scores. For our ancestry, we have upped our strength and dexterity. as we know Percy has little strength and we want his dex as high as possible. For background, we've gone with intelligence and dexterity. Percy did get tutored while still in Whitestone and clearly still retains a lot of the knowledge from his life where he could just spend time reading a lot and learning. His class boost is to dex naturally, and for his 4 free boosts we've gone with dex, con, intelligence and charisma. So this gives us our new numbers, which definitely look different from our 5e Percys. In 5e we had +1 strength, in Pathfinder we had +1 strength. We've gone with +4 dex for 5e based on how you would start. That is also the same, +4 in Pathfinder. +2 con in 5e versus +1 in Pathfinder, +3 intelligence versus +2, +2 wisdom versus +0, and +2 charisma versus +1. So nearly across the board, but that is what happens when you get to roll for stats, especially for someone like Taliesin, who has incredible luck, at least in the first campaign. At later levels, Pathfinder Percy will likely catch up though. While all these inputted can be, we can calculate Percy's AC. With leather armor, it would be an 18, a fair bit higher than he is in 5e, and his hit points are at 17, which is not too much higher due to that higher con in 5th edition. His perception is similar at a +5, thanks to that +0 that he currently has, but he has got more skills here than he did in 5e, where he appears to only have history, perception, and persuasion. Guessing maybe there was an overlap or something again. It seems very low, but maybe it just is. But it looks like the fighter ones maybe haven't been added, or he did persuasion or something. No, it feels like something's missing here, but we'll move on. In Pathfinder, Percy has crafting, diplomacy, genealogy, law, legal law, library law and Whitestone law, society and stealth, as well as expert in perception, though this isn't a skill in Pathfinder, it is separate. Most of these are +5s with diplomacy at a 4 and stealth now at a 7. Okay, that's level 1. So there we are. Let's compare the weapons now. This is going to be a weird one again, but we're going to account for all the stuff in 5e being unofficial at the time, but we're going to go with it anyway. Let's compare what essentially the pepper box, now called the list, would have done damage-wise in both systems. For 5e, it is 1d10 plus dex piercing damage, the dex modifier being a +4. It is one-handed, it's got a +8 to hit, apparently. It does have misfire, and that means on average it'll be dealing about 9 damage, or at later points it'd be dealing 19 with sharpshooter, but we've not got sharpshooter yet, so about 9 damage per shot. In Pathfinder, it is 1d6 damage as standard, plus 1d4 precision damage, one-handed, plus 9 to hit. It has the concealable, concussive, and fatal d10 traits, and this is on average 7 damage. If you get 2 hits, which is, fairly likely, we're doing about 2/3 chance, about 11 damage. And if you have a one-shot, one kill, then it's going to be up to 11 and 18 damage for total, including the extra 1d6 you get. Concealable means that you can try and carry this on your person without people noticing. You can try and discreetly carry it. Concussive means that the damage type can be changed to bludgeoning if things are resistant to piercing damage, which is cool. And fatal, d10, means that when you deal a critical hit, your d6 damage die changes to d10, which is then doubled, and you deal an extra d10 on top of that. So at that point, the damage ups to 18 on average and 24 with one shot, one kill. So quite a bit higher. You don't add dex to ranged attacks, especially not to guns in Pathfinder. It doesn't really make sense, so we don't have to add that modifier, but we do get the precision damage as gunslingers are just that good. And there we obviously are. Percy looks nothing like at all what he'll become in 5e, because he's just currently a fighter really. But in our next video we'll be leveling him up to level 9, where they start the campaign. It should become a lot more familiar and easier to compare the two. So I'll see you in that in a month. Please remember to subscribe and ring the bell so you see the next part of this when it comes out if you're at all interested. And if you like the video or find it at all interesting, then please give it a like. It really helps out. If I've missed anything obvious or there's anything you'd change, please let me know in the comments down below. It's always really interesting to see people who have other thoughts or maybe just know more of the system. Again, I'm quite new to Pathfinder, so there may still be some things that I've missed that other people point out which may fit better. But that's all for now. So until then, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.